Every month there is an absolute barrage of iOS and Android games, and we always come through with a list of the best ones. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 best new iOS and Android games of May 2017. Just a quick disclaimer, these are paid games. We will be doing a free games list as well, and we'll put that up within the next couple days. Number 10 is Miles and Kyllo, which really goes the nostalgia route, giving a Wonder Boy style West 1 type platformer with a boy and his dog. Now, just because it's a nostalgia oriented game, it's a game that gives you the types of graphics that you may have expected from older computer platformers, doesn't mean it doesn't actually innovate a little bit. It actually does. The boy and dog mechanics actually lend themselves to some pretty interesting obstacles, and the level design is absolutely phenomenal. If you like platformers, you will like this game. Number 9 is No Stick Shooter, which is another game based in nostalgia that manages to innovate quite a bit as well. It's a take on the old arcade defense shooter that manages to feel arcadey and will definitely give you some nostalgia that way, at the same time as it works out to be a modern bullet hell version of that type of shooter. It's really well rounded both in gameplay and in graphics, which will probably surprise you for being so simplistic. They are actually really cool. There's different strategies you'll have to employ for different weapons, and it's a game that's going to keep you busy for a while. Number 8 is Subdivision Infinity, which manages to be everything you want out of Galaxy on Fire 3, and even in its own way, a sort of spiritual sibling, not necessarily successor to the Wing Commander games. It's not going to give you exactly that experience, but it's definitely going to satisfy a little bit of that need. This is a gorgeous game, frankly. This will blow your mind that it's a phone, and that this is the time that we live in. It also plays probably a lot better than you might expect, at least if you haven't played the Galaxy on Fire games. It's not so out there from that type of control scheme, but not exactly the same. It's basically an open world space shooter, and it works incredibly well. I really enjoyed this one. Number 7 is Chroma Squad, a game that is going to subvert what you think it's going to be. Just by looking at it, it looks like a Power Rangers game, but anybody who played it back on the PC when it was released a couple years ago knows that it's quite a bit more. Finally being released for iOS and Android, this is a tactical RPG where you essentially build a cast, a crew, scenarios, and then lights, camera, action. You basically make Power Rangers episodes as a tactical RPG. I can think of nothing that sounds actually better than that. That is really a good concept, and it works at every turn. It is entertaining, it is fun, it is nostalgic, and despite it being a turn-based RPG, this will get your blood going, I promise you. This is really just something that any Power Rangers fan or fan of 90s kids action needs to play. Number 6 is To the Moon, an RPG without any fighting in it, but instead is narrative driven. It does play very much like a JRPG without fights, and has a pretty interesting idea behind it. Essentially, a new operation is developed that allows people to relive their lives except for doing the thing that they dreamed of doing instead of not doing it. In the case of a game called To the Moon, you can probably understand exactly what it is this particular patient wanted to do. He wanted to go to the moon. But this is, in my opinion, a stellar version of a narrative game that plays out in a very emotionally moving way with a great soundtrack that does everything it can to emphasize every single moment of it. This is a really different game, and I think you should give it a chance. It's definitely worth it. Number 5 is Arkanoid vs. Space Invaders, and it is exactly what it says it is. It's a mashup of two very different yet inextricably similar games that have totally different objectives, aesthetics, and ideas, but yet meld together in such a perfect way that it just has to be tried. Number 4 is SPACEPLAN, which is a clicker, but let's just go ahead and say this is not a typical clicker. This is a game that has intimate knowledge of exactly how a clicker works. So many of the conventions are utilized in such a strange way it really defies description. It really manages to suck you into the world of SPACEPLAN with simple mechanics that you're already very familiar with. It also does some interesting things with timing that you really wouldn't expect, but actually help to sort of make things a little bit more interesting. But I think one of the best ideas here is not only the narrative, but that there is a definitive end to the game. The story is finite and you can't go on forever. It really, really helps SPACEPLAN be something better than the genre that it is a part of on pretty much every level. Number 3 is Old Man's Journey, a narrative puzzle game that begins with an old man receiving a letter and having to go off on a journey. Sounds pretty self-explanatory, but in fact, this game manages to use narrative design and gameplay elements that draw specifically from visual cues and timing to tell a story without saying a word. In truth, this is one of those games where you go, oh, I get why video games are art, because this game is art in the best form. Art doesn't automatically mean good, but in the case of this is an artful piece that is more than good. It's great. It is fantastic. It will make you feel something. And although it's not very long, it is more than worth the time that you spend with it. I highly recommend Old Man's Journey. Number 2 is Steredenn, a side-scrolling, endless arcade shooter that lies somewhere at the intersection of a roguelike and a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in space. And trust me when I say this, it is everything that those things can be in one thing. This is a game with gorgeous graphics. It takes pixel art well beyond what you might expect from it. Sometimes it's looked at as, oh, another pixel art game. This one is not another pixel art game. This is one of those games where tons of effort has been put into it. And while the game itself can be quite ruthless, it's also extremely fun. You can play and replay and never stop because everything's randomly generated, and it really works out quite well because it's just designed right. This game has phenomenally good design, and there really is just no beating good game design. And finally, number 1 is Beholder, a very strange game that really takes a concept, develops it, and makes it work really smoothly for a very unique experience. It's set in a totalitarian dystopian future. You're a manager of an apartment building, you're essentially employed by the state, and you're supposed to spy on tenants as well as turn in any suspicious activity to the state. You break into apartments, install cameras, you can blackmail people to keep them out of whatever the state's horrors involve, you can turn them in, or you can risk yourself to get them out. What's great is how all the characters are so well developed. They have personalities, they have backstories, and you really get to know them in various ways. It's a really good game that might get you think a little bit about what our government is constantly doing with like the NSA and stuff. I mean, it's not this bad, but there's stuff going on that you should probably think about, and this game points you in that direction. And it's also a great deal of fun. What was your favorite game for iOS or Android in May of 2017? Leave a comment, let us know. We're very interested as always. It can be one of the games on our list or a game that you found on your own, think is great and want to share with other people. Of course, we want you to do that. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, and if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. Every day we upload brand new videos, and the best way to see them first is a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.